Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, The Crafty Quinn. My name is Megan and I love to make DIY decor out of mostly Dollar Tree items. Now if you love decor, DIY decor, or Dollar Tree, I highly suggest you hit that subscribe button. Today we're going to be making some apple DIY crafts that are perfect for fall. Jumping right in here, we are using this Dollar Tree apple cutout. It looks like a holder of some sort. There's many different things you can put in this. I thought, let's just keep this simple. And I'm going to show you in a little bit what you can actually use this for. But today's video is actually part of my monthly challenge, and I'm going to talk to you guys about that in a little bit. So I just painted this with Folk Art's True Burgundy color, and now I'm using Waverly Moss for the green leaf, and then I'm about to use Folk Art Java for the stem of this apple. I thought about maybe doing something to the edges of this apple, maybe even contouring it. But then I realized I don't even know how to contour my face, so I don't think I should try contouring this apple, so we're not going to do that. So I'm just finishing up the paint here on the stem, and there's really not that much to this DIY. I thought, you know what, let's just keep it simple, let's keep it classic, and I'm going to show you guys different ways you could use this. I thought this would be the perfect teacher's gift. I don't know if parents do teacher's gifts for back to school necessarily, but I know they sometimes like to do stuff for maybe end of the year, and so I thought, you know what, it is a really good teacher's gift. So I asked my teacher friends if they receive something like this, what would they use it for? And surprisingly, they told me not to put their cell phone in this, but they said that they would use it for pens, they said that they would use it for hall passes, so I thought that was really interesting. Oh, and here's the Crafty kitty, right on schedule. He really didn't want to show up in this video, so I was playing with some raffia and he came right on over. So like I said, if you were to give this to a teacher, they would most likely use this for pens. It's really good for holding that kind of stuff, highlighters, whatever you want, and it could just sit on their desk. It's also great for holding their teacher ID cards or hall passes, or maybe some treats like these. Maybe more for personal use. But yeah, I thought this was really cute, and that's really all there is to this first DIY. So like I said, this is actually my monthly challenge. For the month of August, we went with the topic of apple picking DIY decor. My co-host is Rebecca Virginia DIY. She is an amazing DIYer. She has the cutest crafts. You really got to check them out. She does all kinds of farmhouse and other kinds of rustic DIYs, and she is my co-host for this month. And there is a playlist, so make sure you go check out the playlist that I have linked down for you below. We have a bunch of crafters here with some apple craft DIYs, so you've got to make sure to check them out. So back to the DIYs here. You just saw me taking apart that apple, brand new Dollar Tree apple sign, and I'm doing it for a reason, I promise. I'm using the brand new Dollar Tree Farmer's Market calendar. It's really, really cute. I have to say this is probably my favorite of the brand new Dollar Tree 2022 calendars this year. I really thought this one had some cute, just, it looks like, I guess, drawings really of different fruits and whatnot. So I thought this was super cute, and I noticed that they did have an apple month, and they put it for September, of course, because apparently September is apple picking season. So well, the start of apple picking season, I guess. So that is what I'm using for this little sign here, and I realized it didn't quite fit, it wasn't quite large enough to fit over this sign completely, but that's okay. We're just going to cover up the little edges that don't get covered with some white paint. I had some on my finger, so I'm just gonna wipe it off. That's the crafter's life, right? So I'm just taking some white paint, and I'm going to just cover up the edges of this completely, so whatever doesn't get covered by the paper is going to show these white edges come through, and that's actually perfect for what I'm trying to do here, because I'm going to make this sign look rustic in the end. So this way it'll show up easier when I actually try to do that. So I'm using some Elmer's Craft Bond glue stick right now. I thought about doing this a couple different ways, Mod Podging it, and every time I Mod Podge it, it gets all crinkly. I did hear about a new method to try for Mod Podging that can remove some wrinkles, but I'm kind of nervous to try it, so I didn't do it for this video, but maybe I will do it for a different video. But I've heard that if you let the Mod Podge dry completely and then place over your paper on top of it and use like I guess a low heat iron or something like that, it reactivates the Mod Podge and things will start to adhere to the Mod Podge that is already dried. So I'm really excited to try that out. I just don't feel like I have all the materials for that, and I didn't want to mess up this pretty calendar sign, so maybe in a future video I will try out that technique, but I just heard about it and it sounded a little too good to be true, but I guess we will put it to the test and see. So after I just glue sticked this picture onto the sign, I am taking some Waverly Antique Wax, and that's why I left those edges painted white, so I could antique wax over them then, and that kind of helps give it more of the rustic feel that I'm going for. So I just went over this lightly. I was just trying to make the letters not so bright white. I wanted them to go with the rustic look of the rest of the sign. So I just kind of did a couple quick swipes of the antique wax over that. I didn't really go too heavy. I just wanted it to not be so bright. And I feel like I went over most of the sign with the wax as well, just a quick once over. I just really felt like it wasn't quite enough rustic. So I took a bunch of Dollar Tree ribbon and I did cinch it all together, and that is what gives this the final touch on this sign. And that is the brand new red Dollar Tree fall raffia that is so cute, and I use it a lot in this video. Just using some hot glue there, just holding it in place, and then that's really all this DIY takes. Just a last adjustment to the bow, and then that's it. You're done. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're only about halfway through, so make sure to hit that thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and I now have a Buy Me a Coffee profile if you ever want to support my channel through cups of coffee. So this is the Crafty Kitty, as I mentioned before. His name is Marcus, and we just want to say thank you guys so much for being so supportive of our channel. We always appreciate you guys. So on to the next DIY here. This is one of these Dollar Tree metal signs. I have both versions. I have the version of it where the ridges are actually standing up, and so I antique wax over that before. And so you are going to see that in a little bit, because I used that other truck that I did to compare to this truck because I needed to use the lines, and you'll see what I mean in a little bit. But basically, I'm just going to cover this up completely with the green paint, and this, I'm using more of that moss color of the Waverly Moss, and I really like that color. It's very similar to a folk art color that I like to use called Sage Blossom. And I want to say maybe this moss is slightly darker, but that's okay. I've really gotten into using this color for a lot of the apple crafts that you see. So I took a couple of these Dollar Tree Applewood cutouts. They come in a pack of 8, and they do have a hole in the middle because you can make an ornament or a garland out of them. So I just filled in that hole with hot glue, and the reason why I was sanding over those apples that you just saw there was because I was just trying to sand down the hot glue that I put in the little hole there. So then it was completely flat, and now I'm just going to paint over it. So instead of using spackle to cover the little hole, I just used hot glue. It works exactly the same. So I'm painting this now with that true burgundy color I've been using the whole video so far. That is the color I'm sticking with for these apples. So I'm using a hairdryer to dry the apples because I dropped my heat gun, and I guess pretty bad, and it broke. So it literally started smoking, and I felt like it was about to catch fire, so I had to get rid of that, but I need to order a new one. So once everything is all painted, we are going to put the apples in the bed of this truck and really make it look like it's coming from an apple orchard. And that was really the theme of this video and the theme of this challenge. It was apple picking season. So making DIYs that remind you of going apple picking, making you go, that think that make you think of going to an apple orchard. So I really felt like this DIY went along with the theme quite well. So I wanted these to make it, I wanted to make it look like they're in the bed of the truck. So I was just kind of lining it up to see how high I wanted the apples to stand out of the bed of the truck. So all this takes is some hot glue, and it holds it really well, because at one point I thought about taking the apples off to maybe readjust them, and I couldn't get them to come off from the metal truck. So it adhered really, really well with just regular hot glue. Yeah, see that then that's where I'm trying to get it off of there, and it just was not budging. So it's really good to know that it's very secure and it's not going to come off. And I'm just hot gluing that apple to the other apple so it fits in the back of the truck. So once it's on there, it's not going to come off, as far as I could tell. So here I'm just putting the lines back onto the truck, and as you can see there, I'm using the original truck that I made, I want to say a couple months ago, and I am just using that kind of as my guide so I can redraw the lines of this truck, but with antique wax. So I'm using antique wax for the lines here. I'm just using a little thin brush so I can get these lines pretty good. So I'm not trying to make it perfect, but just kind of using the other truck as just a guideline. I really wanted to have that, rustic antique look, so it does not have to be perfect. The rougher the better with this. It really did turn out great that way. I'm not using a ton of wax on this. I need it to just come out like thin enough. So I'm kind of doing almost like dry brush waxing, and I'm taking a lot of the excess off of my brush before I start applying it to the truck. I'm literally only taking wax from the lid of the antique wax bottle because I don't want to get too much on there, and I'm trying to see what the lines look like on that truck above. So once I have the truck completely outlined, I'm using a bunch of burlap, and I actually cut a very thick Dollar Tree red buffalo check ribbon in half. It was a wired edge ribbon, and I just cut it completely in half because it was really so thick enough that I felt like I could get two pieces out of it, and by not having those wired edges, I felt like it gave it more of a rustic look. I'm just cinching it now with some twine, and that is what's going to help give it more of a finished look, make it look like more of a bow. I don't really do traditional bows. I like to layer up pieces of fabric and cinch it together so it looks like a big fluffy bow. So once I have that to my liking, I'm just gonna hot glue it to the truck. And I think it's turning out really nice so far. So there we go. It's gonna go right in the middle of the truck, and then that's not quite the finishing touch yet. I did go ahead and add some more of that red raffia into here, but I think it needs one more touch. So I'm adding a tiny little cute button. That's like one of my favorite things, I think, to add to the ribbon. So now I'm just kind of adjusting, and this is the end result. I love how this truck turned out. So next I'm making this, I'm going to turn this into a Applewood, not Applewood. Sorry, I can't talk tonight, guys. I'm going to turn this into an apple orchard picking truck. This is a Dollar Tree rustic looking truck wood cutout, and I'm just taking some cardboard that you see here because it has kind of like these sections in the middle of it because it's two wooden pieces together, and there's two kind of like pieces of wood just holding those pieces together. So then I added the cardboard to the bottom to basically make the bed of the truck and kind of give it an actual trunk to be able to hold some pieces, because I'm going to fill this up with some apples and it's going to be super cute. And I can't wait for you guys to see the end result of this one. But it's so funny because I was talking to my co-host tonight, and Rebecca, Virginia, and I ended up actually making a very, very similar truck. I mean, how could you not? It was just perfect for this challenge theme. So definitely check out her truck. I'm gonna link her channel down below along with the playlist. You gotta check out the playlist and see what else everybody else came up with for this theme, because we really have some creative folks on this playlist, and the stuff that they're thinking of is just so adorable. I can't wait for you guys to see. So I'm gonna have all of that linked down for you below. So the apples that I just had in the bed of that truck, those are brand new. They're out with the fall decor. It's almost kind of like, those little apples kind of remind me of like vase filler, or I don't know, I feel like you can just use them for so many different things, but I'm not sure if maybe they intended the apples to be for this purpose, but that's certainly how I'm gonna use them. So I'm just gonna cover this truck with some white Waverly chalk paint, but I'm going to distress it and make it look more rustic in nature. I could not decide what color I wanted this truck to be. I thought of so many different color combinations, and then eventually I just settled on white because I figured if I didn't like it, I could just paint over it. So I did keep the little trunk part separate because I'm going over it now with some antique Waverly wax. This is the brush that I started out using. It was way too big, so don't do that. Definitely just use a tiny brush, and that is really all you need. I'm not really worried about what like level of staining for this. I just want it to look rustic, and so you can just really have fun with it. I have my hand there because I'm trying to make sure I don't get any of the wax on the truck yet. So after that is stained, I'm going to go ahead and distress the rest of this truck. I was really focused on putting a lot of wax on the wheels. I wanted the wheels to look muddy or dirty, like it had just come from the orchard. So yeah, I put a lot of wax there. Really just wanted this to look antiqued. Making sure to put a lot more wax on the bottom there, kind of look muddy there. So I really kind of did this to the whole truck, but definitely focused on more areas, on some areas more than others. I definitely thought it was important to put it on the front of the truck and the very, very back of the truck. So once I have that all distressed, we're gonna go ahead and paint our apples to place in the trunk. So I'm using the plastic bag technique. I'm sure there's like a million other ways that you could that you could have painted these little apples if you wanted. I guess I'm kind of going with the lazy way here, but I just basically, when I do this, I just make sure that I don't put a ton of paint on this. I kind of start off putting a very, very small amount of paint, and then if that ends up covering them, then I'm good. I don't have to add more. So just kind of starting with just adding just a little bit and then just seeing how that does, making sure you're actually covering it completely, and kind of, I call it kind of shake and bake, but I guess it's not technically shake and bake, but that's just what I think of when I do this technique. So I'm gonna do I can fit about 6 apples in this trunk. I did 3 red, and then I did the other 3 green. And I'm using more of that true burgundy for these apples, and then I'm going to use more moss for the other apples. And so those are basically the colors, the color palette, if you will, for the apples of this video. It was definitely difficult to make sure you're covering like the stem too. So once I took them out of the bag and I dried them up a little bit, if there were any areas that I missed, I just went back with a tiny little brush, and then after that was done, I just used my hairdryer to make sure they were all completely dry before painting the rest of it. I did add a little bit too much of the moss to this bag, so I'm just going ahead and adjusting that there, and with my paintbrush I'm actually taking off some paint or just kind of spreading it around. And I kind of try to do that before they exit the bag so they're not like gonna get a ton of paint all over the place, but definitely just had to use my hairdryer instead of my heat gun, my hairdryer a lot to make sure all of the paint was dry on all of these. And this was the end result. Which DIY was your favorite from today? Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you check out the playlist. Go check out Rebecca Virginia DIY's channel. Subscribe if you like her content. If you want to check out more videos, watch them here on the left. And let's keep in touch on Instagram. Thank you guys so much, and hope you have a great rest of your day.